Hey guys, episode 2 of whatever we're going to call this new show. But I wanted to tell you guys something because I met someone in the gym the other day that told her personal story of how she injured herself deadlifting. And very typical injury that was a disc herniation in the lumbar spine. And this happens a lot in deadlifting when people start to get a little heavy and they use bad form. At least that's the typical reason, right? It can be a complex injury. But in general terms, a lot of people tend to round their lower back and get into trouble. And I thought there's two things that I do that keep me safe, and I'm convinced that I'll always be safe if I keep following these two rules. And I'm thinking you can maybe adopt it yourself. One, I don't use wrist straps. And that's partly because I don't have a personal passion, a personal intention to lift really heavy. I'm not trying to max out. I'm not trying to get up to 3 times body weight, for instance. I'm trying to get closer to 2.5 times body weight. Right now I'm at about 3 plates, and I'd like to get to about 3.5 plates. But that's as far as I really want to go, and I say that now. But the thing about not wearing straps is that it allows your body the chance to let go, and that's pretty key because when something is super super heavy and our body can't lift it, and specifically our bicep says, "I'm going to tear. I need to let go," because remember the bicep is attached on the same fascial line to your grip. And so when things get so heavy and you just can't hang on anymore, that's your body's way of saying this is too heavy. And it's trying to create or kind of enable that fail safe to let go. And when you have wrist straps, you override that, right? You give it something and you say, no, we're going to hang on no matter what. And then you kind of ask your back to take over. And that can be another thing to kind of get you into trouble where your body's trying to say, let go, let go, let go. And you're saying, no, I got the wrist straps, I'll be fine. So the fact that I don't use a wrist strap is something I think is kind of a very natural, very practical safety net for myself. That if it does get super heavy, I need to work on my grip strength and protect my biceps. Something a lot of people don't think about. Secondly, whenever I lift on the deadlift, and just like the squat, what I am thinking about more than anything is keeping my lower back really fucking tight, like super tight. I mean, that's what's going through my head more than anything. I go through my mental cues and I lock everything up and I kind of zip up the whole body before I do anything. I begin the movement and begin the pull, but I'm really focused throughout the lift, and especially when things get heavy, I really think about locking up that lower back and making it a lever, enabling that hip hinge, enabling that real smooth motion to come and to drive through the lower back. Because the lower back, remember, is not really built for mobility. It's meant more as kind of a tool, as a lever. We get more mobility and movement and torsion capability in our upper spine, in our T-spine, not so much the lumbar spine. So that's why you want to keep it really, really tight. And I'm constantly thinking about that. And so as a consequence, I know when I start to round it in the middle of a lift, I can feel it. And so I'm not wearing a lifting belt. Instead, I am making damn sure that I'm constantly tight my lower spine. And I'll recognize myself consciously when I start to round a little bit. And that kind of came after time, but that's very, very key. Making sure the lower back is just super tight. So those two things, try kind of rolling that into the background as you lift. One, make your own decision if you want to use straps or not. But I think it's really something that unless you're competing in a powerlifting meet, I don't think you need to be, or training for a meet, I don't think you should be using straps. I think it's probably something that can get you into trouble. And you're probably not lifting heavy enough to really even need them. Unless you're approaching 3 times body weight, I don't think you're, I don't think you're advanced enough to really kind of earn that privilege of having straps, because it's a pretty serious thing. You're making a commitment to yourself to lift really heavy, and you're definitely getting up in some poundage when you start doing that. And secondly, to really focus on the lower back and keep it super, super tight when you lift. I think that's something that we forget about. We think about the back as a whole. We think about our grip. We think about pulling and just maybe pushing through the legs, and all these things aren't really as good not only for lifting technique, but to keep your body safe. They're not as good as just remembering that your lower back is where it all happens. And to keep that tight, will keep your vertebrae nice and snug together, and the chances of any kind of disc herniation will go down. So it sucks. I can only imagine what it's like to have a back injury. I never want one, and so that's why I am very, very cautious and conservative in my own training and patient, right? So hope that helped. That's my random musing. We will see you tomorrow.